Split Second Broadcasting's coverage of the 11th season of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series rolls into Talladega Superspeedways. We are deep into the heart of the playoffs. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We get you set for 75 laps of racing at this 2.66 mile superspeedway in preparation for the Alabama Gang 200. 10 playoff hopefuls get ready to conquer the unpredictability of superspeedway racing. 8 different drivers have gone to victory lane at this racetrack in this series in previous seasons, including my broadcast colleague Ross Brockman. Ross, with this being right in the middle of the playoffs, we've not seen a whole lot of points moving and shaking in the top 5 in the standings. That could all change at the end of this race.
Well, I appreciate the shout out as a former winner. That seems very long time ago. But the one thing I'll say is not much has changed with Talladega. It's very similar to back when I won that race. It's pack racing. It's finding where your partners are. We saw earlier this year at Daytona a lot of teamwork that got certain drivers in certain positions to control that race and actually win the race, with Spencer Owens winning Daytona. I think you're going to see the same tonight, and with our playoff drivers, our chase drivers, I think that there's going to be some working together, and then also just avoiding each other. Why not a great opportunity to maybe try to get away from your playoff competitors by hanging them out to dry. So I'm excited to see what those relationships are like, because this is very different than what we've been doing the last couple weeks. This is really more of the mental game here at Talladega, and I'm excited to see how they navigate it.
Going to be interesting to see how the playoff driver's mentality is going to be here, especially the first half of this race. You got to think for most of them, it's survive, live to tell the tale, be in the conversation at the end of the race. And of course, as well, a couple of drivers we talked to last week mentioned about the possibility of green flag pit stops, shuffling things up and giving us an idea of who to look for when we draw closer to the checkered flag. As a driver that has been incredibly consistent here in the first 3 playoff races nabs the pole position, looking for his first win on the season, Jackson Sims will start on the inside of the front row. Alongside of him, this is only the second superspeedway stop on the season. The first one was the season opener at Daytona. Spencer Owens went to victory lane. He starts on the outside of row 1.
Starting row 2, a couple playoff drivers. Jared Darling, who is a little bit of a hole since he missed last week, but to his right is the points leader, the guy everyone's chasing currently, Matthew Weeks in the 56.
William Barbagelata had a solid run at Daytona, bringing it home on the podium in 3rd. He's going to share the 3rd row alongside of playoff contender Matthew Durr, who finds himself 6th in the standings after 3 playoff races.
Starting 7th, the guy I'm surprised. Usually he qualifies up on the front row at these super speedways. The 63 of Eric Kepp, he's going to start 7th. And then to his right, the 49 of Shane Neiswanger.
They say if you're in it, you can win it. A couple of drivers that have struggled this season. Jeremy Pienta in the 42, Kurt Gibson in the 45. They complete your top 10. Could we see one of them be an underdog win here tonight?
Starting 11th, the 73 of Kyle Cooper, and starting 12th, the return of the 12th truck of Zachary Henry.
2 victories here at Talladega Superspeedway in Elliott Henderson's career. He's going to make up the inside of row number 7. Alongside of him, the number 10 of Hunter Brittle.
Starting 15th, the 8 of Josh Robin, and starting 16th, the 40 of Nicholas Kressel. 2 guys that I think, just as you were mentioning, some underdogs here that could potentially win tonight.
Could also throw your 9th row into that conversation. Cy Jackson going to roll off 17th. Bren Kitcott, who just missed out on the playoffs, rolling off from the 18th spot.
Starting 19th, the 3 of Travis Hanby, and starting 20th, the return of Christian Peterson. We'll see where he shakes out still in this playoff battle.
A couple of playoff contenders going to be back in row number 11. Hunter Madalinas, the defending champion of the series, rolls off from the 21st position. 2nd in the standings coming into tonight. Alongside of him is going to be Ashton Lawson. Lawson coming into this race 7th in the standings, had a great run last week.
Starting 23rd, the 14 of Gavin Fitzgerald. Starting 24th, the 92 of Michael Senzi.
Back in row 13 is going to be number 41, Justin Mons. Number 4 of Rod Fastnell will be to his outside. Going to have to pass a lot of trucks here tonight.
And our final two rows here, James Shiflett starts 27th, Robin Durr in the 98 starts 28th, and then all by himself starting in the back, Lewis Woodall in the 13 will start 29th.
So a lot of trucks taking the green flag here tonight, which means there are a lot of points on the table coming into tonight. Matthew Weeks had a 9-point advantage over Hunter Madalinas, 13 points back to Jackson Sims, 18 to Elliott Henderson, and 27 back to Shane Neiswanger. Those positions did not change between the start to the finish of the race last week when we were at Rockingham Speedway. We could see some shuffling in the top 5 in the standings dependent on the good luck or the misfortune of playoff drivers here tonight. We mentioned this is the second and the final super speedway stop of the season for these Truck Series drivers. Talladega is nothing like Daytona. One of the biggest mitigating factors is the start-finish line at Daytona would be right here at an extra couple hundred feet till you get to the start-finish line, almost midway down to turn 1 here at Talladega. Could be the difference maker between who's the winner and who's the first runner-up. We're racing here at Talladega Superspeedway. And it will be interesting to see here, Ross, right out at the gate, how anxious are these drivers going to be double wide, maybe even 3 wide? How much self-preservation do we see in the opening laps?
Yeah, you already see Eric Kemp jumping out of line, going to drop to the back. That kind of sometimes will mess up a little bit the pack. You know, a big hole now on that bottom lane. You got the bottom 3 trucks out front kind of pulling away, the top lane more organized, but yeah, just a matter of getting some momentum here. The first lap or two, you can stay probably in the pack a little bit because there's not as much chaos. But then once the pack gets back together, then maybe you might see some more drivers jump out. A great job by Spencer Owens on the start to grab kind of be leading out front. But Sims has done a great job with his help, Jared Darling behind him, to stay even and side by side here.
Yeah, there are a few ways when you're not all that comfortable with where you're running that you can kind of throw out the parachute and drop to the rear of the field. You mentioned Eric Kemp there on the back straightaway. We saw there midway through the trioval, Josh Robin went all the way almost up to the wall, let everybody on by him, and is tucked into a safe position currently just inside of the top 20 is up at the front. We are still gridlocked here. Spencer Owens, the only driver so far this season that has a super speedway victory under his belt, and that was a photo finish between himself and Elliott Henderson. You kind of get the vibes here tonight, kind of get the vibes whatever super speedway you go to that we might be in for a photo finish in this race as well.
Yeah, they stay together. They obviously the pack will invite that. Jared Darling jumps to the outside, gets in front of Owens here, and he's gonna maybe even clear for the lead here. I definitely think Jared Darling, obviously missed the race last week, so that's kind of put him in a hole for this playoff. But I think he probably had a little higher hopes for how he would run, during this playoff run. So I think a good run tonight, and even contending for a win. Been hoping for a win for a while. I think that that's his goal tonight. Obviously, like most nights.
Got a third line for him, and I believe that's Zachary Henry, Ashton Lawson, Christian Peterson testing the waters there, right up against the safer barrier, seeing if they can make up some ground. Right now, the lead truck, Henry, currently scored in the 11th spot. They're trying to crack up into the top 10, so maybe testing the waters here in the early going, seeing what they could do, or is this frustration of, I don't want to just sit here and ride, let's make something happen?
Yeah, I think obviously these guys are all guys that want to go up there and lead this this race if they can. They're all aggressive drivers, so why not try it, see what you got, see if there's an opportunity to move up. If you're any of these drivers, see Barbara Gelada jumping out now, and that just kills the momentum of that bottom line. That gives that outside line even more momentum to get up there farther. So here we see Henry now almost up to the second line or second row, I guess you could say, just because of that move by Barbara Gelada of pulling out.
Couple of Matts nose to tail in that middle line. Matthew Weeks with help from the 18 of Matthew Durr. Shane Neiswanger there as well. And here comes that third line. We might end up having them 3 abreast across the start-finish line here as Zachary Henry. There's only 3 trucks up in that top line, but how are they able to produce so much more speed when there's 6 to 7 trucks in the rows below them?
It just seems like you have maybe more options to stay in the gas. I don't know. I think sometimes in the pack, especially once you get middle pack, there's just a lot of, letting off the gas, checking up, a lot of different agendas going on. Just seems a little bit more organized. Looks like they had Caressel there for a second. He now jumps back down to the middle. But, now the last handful of laps, they've kind of lost a little bit of ground. Weeks jumps down to the inside now, and Matthew Durr's going to be on the outside leading that middle lane.
Matthew Weeks got his season started off on a high note at Daytona, started 18th, finished 4th, led 5 laps in that race as well, and he's going to lead them around here to the start-finish line. The points leader coming into tonight. Maybe got to be feeling the most pressure when you have a rather small points lead going into a super speedway. You want to do everything in your power to, if not increase, kind of hold the status quo, but a lot of times in super speedway racing, a lot is out of your control. We have seen so many times trucks, drivers that are up inside of the top 5 almost the entirety of the race. We get to the closing stages and you get swept up into somebody else's mess and do not have a finish. And think of how good you were. It's one way up into the wall hard. I believe that was Travis Hanby. That truck just went straight up the banking, pounded the outside wall. The entire right front fender is gone. Somehow we still remain green as that truck never fully spun around.
Saw Amby kind of get down by the apron, and this is a really unique situation because the incident, I think most of the cars or the trucks stayed moving pretty fast, so I think the system didn't throw a yellow, so we're still under green here. That really broke up, and a good chunk of the pack has lost ground here, so we'll have to take a look at it at some point if it's maybe during our first caution if we get one, or if we get a chance here, but this is really broke it up, and we'll have to see at some point what happened.
Yeah, we've only now got about 16 drivers up in this lead pack. Elliott Henderson, Hunter Madalinas back in 18th and 19th, so they're kind of leading a group of 7 or 8 trucks that all had to lift out of the throttle or get on the brakes when Travis Hamby had his moment in the middle of the pack. Was somebody also slow off of 4? It might have been the 4 of Rod Fafnow who might have also gotten a piece of this, but if we got away with only 2 trucks sustaining damage, with that being right in the middle of the pack, that's almost a miracle by super speedway standards.
Yeah, two trucks that maybe were trying to stay in the back a little bit more. Oh, maybe gets the... Yeah, I think Hanby just came down on the 73 of Kyle Cooper there. Didn't maybe know he was to his left, and it just kind of, sent him and overcorrect to the other side, just trying to save it. And unfortunately, kind of a bad spot for the 4. But this really changed the look of this race. We got 2 lines kind of organized pretty well right now, so it might keep it green for a little bit. This will be fascinating to see as Weeks leads, but Darling's still doing a great job here. Got the run on the outside.
Yeah, both Hanby and Fastnow on pit road. Little unfortunate friendly fire there for a couple of teammates out of KFS Motorsports. As right now they're the only drivers off the lead lap. But how concerned are you right now if you're 17th on back after you had to avoid all of the going-ons there in turn number 4? You're running currently over 7 seconds behind the lead group.
Yeah, and there's not much you can do, really. Ultimately, you're going to have to wait for a caution. I look at the front of that pack there. Elliott Henderson, Hunter Madalinas, 2 of our playoff drivers. So, a huge moment here if by chance we don't get a caution for a while. The scary part is, even if you do get a caution, is like, what happens if it's not until like 15 to go, and now you don't get that opportunity to make friends and maybe gain track position, use any strategy on pit road to try to get up near the front of the pack. It's a little scary. You start to get a little impatient, and there's nothing you can do but just follow in line back there. So we'll have to see. I think they'll be able to maintain for a long time for a majority of this race. I don't think they're going to go a lap down, but we'll see if they can hit some lap times and get caught up.
Little 2-truck tandem there on the outside line. Nicholas Caressel and Christian Peterson trying to keep that 3rd lane alive for the time being. Nobody really venturing up there to help them, as most trucks running in the middle to inside line. As Jared Darling trying to edge ahead of Matthew Weeks. It seems like he's able to get a really good run off the corner, but Matthew Weeks is able to, with a shorter way around the racetrack, to get the advantage from the entry to the center of the corner. And I look at some of the drivers we've got up here in this lead pack right now. You mentioned about the situation for Darling missing last week. We didn't see Christian Peterson last week as well. Even Spencer Owens, who has that Daytona victory. There's some drivers that find themselves now 59 to 73 points out of the points lead. Now, mathematically, they still have a shot, and depending on what happens here, they could end up eating into that deficit by a pretty good margin. If you're any of those drivers coming in tonight at Talladega, I know that obviously you have to big picture race when it comes to Superspeedway racing, but do you think they might be treating this as a must-win scenario with only a few races left here in the postseason?
Yeah, obviously that's maximum points. It's great to get that little bit extra because there's a little bit of extra for winning the race. But I think ultimately you almost need some others to have trouble, and that will that's hard to wish for. So we'll have to see if that does happen tonight. I think ultimately why not go win just so that way you can maximize points? But I think they're going to need more than that to really give themselves a chance to get back in this. I noticed a couple lap trucks ahead of this pack. It's going to be interesting to see how they navigate these lappers. That's a big part of the Superspeedway racing.
That's Lewis Woodall in the 13, Justin Mons in the 41 that they're starting to close up on. The last two trucks on the lead lap, but you see they're going to get swallowed up very easily by the lead group that is carrying about 5 to 10 miles per hour more speed with their thundering pack than that two-car tandem. The good news for Woodall and Mons is they should be able now in the draft of this lead pack be able to kind of mesh with them. It will be a battle within the battle, however, as they'll be trying to stay ahead of each other. If a caution comes out, they're going to try and fight for that lucky dog free pass.
Yeah, that's a tough spot to be in. You're obviously the first couple laps of this race, you've been working together, and all of a sudden now you get to both being a lap down. Now you're racing each other, so ultimately we're trying to work together to not go a lap down, but now that you are, you're having to battle it out for this free pass. I guess ultimately you want to just stay in the pack and not lose any more ground and see what happens later in this race. I see Jeremy Pienta is all the way up to that outside lane and try to lead this lap. Looks like Weeks still holding on to it, but a great job by that 42 to get up here and flirt with his lead.
Yeah, when they caught those slower trucks, a number of drivers kind of jumped up there to that middle line. Actually, it was a third lane with the leaders having to take the middle lane through the tri-oval, kind of using those slower trucks as a pick. To your point, Jeremy Pienta was able to get up there and fight for the lead. Josh Robin, who we saw on the opening lap, dropped to the rear of the field, now feeling brave as he's the drafting truck for that 42 in the middle line. And up there, high, wide, and handsome again, Christian Peterson trying to make something happen. He's got Jared Darling up there for some drafting help. That 71 has been pretty doggedly up in that third lane, trying to recruit more and more people to come up there with him.
Yeah, and he's gotten close a couple times. You see right here, you can kind of see the forward momentum, but then all of a sudden it kind of just evaporates a little bit, and then they have to kind of regroup. But trying to get up there and lead, I thought this group was going to stay in kind of two lanes, but this third lane's done a great job, and they're doing a great job of just keeping it organized and some great racing here. And again, that 71 gets a little bit of a run down the first part of the backstretch, but then kind of stalls out.
You mentioned an important word when it comes to Superspeedway racing in the pre-race, and that was teammates. You can see on the inside line right there, Matthew Weeks looks behind him. He's got the 23 of Spencer Owens on his back bumper, a couple of teammates out of Dark Horse Motorsports. But what about some of these guys up here, like a Jeremy Pienta, some of these guys that don't necessarily have a core group of teammates to work with? How easy or difficult is it to kind of freelance your services and try and see if you can find some allies during the course of a race?
Well, I think there's a lot of times where all of a sudden you start to draft with somebody, and then you kind of they become your teammate for the night, So I think for some of these drivers that are up here flirting with the lead, we see Peterson now went to that middle lane. He's got help from Pienta. You don't know if that's if there's any connection there, or if it's just the guy that you got behind you, that's who's the one who's going to be pushing you. Darling jumps up in front of Nicemonger. Some of these drivers, of course, have raced around each other for a long time. We talked about it at Daytona. Henderson and Owens, though they're not teammates, they've raced with each other for so long that they kind of became teammates that night and took control of the race and battled it out between the two of them. So you could see something like that potentially happening tonight.
I remember that there was a series we broadcasted, and there was a guy that didn't even have a team name announced for a series, and I remember asking him that question, like, how do you get people to work with you? He says, just show that you're fast. If they see you're fast, everybody wants to work with you.
It's true.
Still 3 wide here. We've now got more that have migrated up to that third lane. Christian Peterson, who was heading that program, has now jumped down to the middle line. Jared Darling is now the lead truck up in the third lane with Shane Nicewonger, Hunter Brittle, Nicholas Caressel is up there, as well as Matthew Dury. You also see the 27 of William Barbagilata there as well. You kind of go back to that incident we had involving Travis Hamby and Rod Fastnow. You now see drivers who in the early stage of the race faded to the back like Josh Robin and William Barbagilata. Now they're up here in this lead pack with a shot of fighting for the race lead. That kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Big picture racing, kind of almost doing a little bit of defensive driving out the gate to not put yourself in a bad situation. It's obviously paid off for a couple of those drivers that were a little bit conservative after the green flag dropped.
Yeah, it's just a matter of making sure you finish this race. You talked about the idea of you can run up front the whole race and then get caught in an incident with 2 laps to go and get a bad finish. So I don't blame some of these drivers for being a little bit more cautious. You got to get to the end. Sometimes, even 75 lap race here, it's a long time of just being, in that mental game of being in this pack. And sometimes it's like you just need a break from it, or at least you conserve your energy to potentially worry about it later in the race. So I don't mind being a little safe here. Interesting. I just saw Jared Darling able to get clear and grab the lead. That's a safe place to be. And you talked about the idea of you could run up front and have something go wrong. The other part of this, there isn't stages or any points available mid-race, but there is for leading laps, and we saw Weeks up there for a long time there. So a guy leading the points here in Weeks, a safe spot to be, but also a chance to grab an extra point that maybe you would want later if you get caught up in something.
Jared Darling led 5 laps in the season opener at Daytona. I remember him actually leading the outside line for a lot of that race. He ended up ultimately coming away with a 25th place finish as he was caught up in an incident on the final lap. Certainly not indicative of the speed he had that race, and another fast truck here tonight. If you're looking at this lead pack and thinking it looks kind of small, well, that's because only 2/3 of the field are up here in this lead group right now. All these drivers back here, they are praying for a caution to come out and save them. Elliot Henderson has been leading this group of about 8-9 drivers for the last 15 or so laps. They've not been able to make up ground on the lead pack. They were about 7.5 seconds when we checked on them last time. That has almost doubled now in terms of distance, and the thing that they're having to worry about on top of a caution maybe not saving them, you mentioned green flag pit stops tend to spread the field out even more. When do we start thinking about that here? Because we've got 20 laps completed already here. We've so far had a couple of incidents, but we've yet to have a caution flag wave over the speedway.
Yeah, and this tonight's fuel window is kind of in an interesting spot. I kind of just did some laps to see roughly where it would be, and it's about 25 laps. So you might kind of think, well, okay, well, we can cut this race into thirds. So I think that's a great call. The only thing is, we started this race with a couple pace laps. If you're one of these drivers like Weeks or even Henderson leading your line, you could be burning a little bit more fuel. So I think you got to make sure you can get to lap 25 just so that way you could potentially split this race into thirds if it goes green the whole way. But I think that second pack is going to be maybe a little bit in trouble. They may have to hit a little bit early just because they probably are using a little bit more fuel than this first pack up front here. So it'll be interesting to see if everybody, if the fuel window is lap 25 and that also is when the window opens, Could we see everybody pitting on lap 25? That would be a little bit, little crazy as far as organization coming down to pit road here.
We saw right there, multi-time winner Christian Peterson went up, it looked like, of his own free will to the outside line, let everybody on by him. Jeremy Pienta doing the same. To your point, is this most drivers feeling that there's going to be a massive pack of trucks that are going to all come to pit road on the same lap, and you'd rather have everything in front of you rather than rely on everybody adhering to your braking zone behind you coming to pit road?
You know, I prefer to have been making this plan, 10, 15 laps ago, and potentially saving a little fuel, maybe hoping that you could, get a group of some of these drivers in the back. We see a handful of them that are been just kind of tagging along in the back of this pack. Could they go maybe a lap farther than everyone else and avoid the chaos of everybody else coming down? That's something that I would be trying to do. If you've been racing up front, you kind of just have to, I guess, jump to the back just to make sure you can get to pit road, because there maybe isn't as much options as far as when you can come down, just because you maybe haven't been saving. So we'll see what happens. I like the idea. Obviously, we got some of these drivers that have been stuck on the bottom here. We see Caressel and Neiswanger. Apparently, they don't feel that they're going to need to pit here in the next couple laps, because they're racing up front and racing up on the top lane.
Like, for the most part, a lot of drivers have migrated their way down to that double yellow line, make a little bit easier access to pit road. Only about a half dozen drivers up there in that outside line, being led by Nicholas Caressel in the 40. So to your point, you'd have to assume that they feel they've maybe saved a little bit more during the course of this run. As here we go. Coming to pit road, most of the leaders, including Caressel, who pitted from the second lane. Oh, he's going to lock him up. Little half spin there as he's going to get it pointed in the right direction. But now, you try and optimize everything in terms of the amount of speed you carry to pit road, the launch off of pit lane. You got to make sure you don't overstep, because this is one of the easier racetracks with how fast you come to pit lane that you could overstep that speed limit marker.
Yeah, impressive job to come down from the outside lane. I imagine the people on the inside lane were probably not happy about that, but ultimately the fact they were able to get through it and not cause anything. Caressel went a little bit too far. We'll have to see. That might be a speeding penalty, but that maybe gives him it freed him up to not get into any issues. It looks like Peterson and maybe Kingcott coming in this time.
That's Kirk Gibson. Yep.
Oh, Kirk Gibson.
And he's going to have a little bit of a lockup there as well. Looks like that's the rear brakes, I believe, that are locking up on a lot of these trucks as they approach pit road. And there you go. To your point, looks like the 40 did get tagged for speeding. 30-second penalty as he waits to be released. Costly mistake.
Yeah, tough spot, but hopefully they can. Looks like that second group, most all of them came down and pit this last lap. So Sims, Neiswanger, Kingcott, these are drivers that ultimately we kind of saw them be able to run mid-pack for a portion of that first run and be able to go a little bit farther here. I like that idea. Hopefully they've been out here this last lap or two doing a great job of drafting just to try to gain a little bit of ground on the rest of their competitors. It's a big group trying to get to pit road.
Ooh, little lock up there. A couple of trucks locking up. Matthew Durr, Justin Mons, and Shane Neiswanger are going to get a piece of the 41. The 41 was battling with Lewis Woodall for the free pass position. Shane Neiswanger spent a good portion of this race up inside of the top 10. Actually, was in the top 5 for the latter portion of that run, and this is going to cost him track position.
Yeah, it almost looked like, if you would have told me the track was dirty there, I would have said, yeah, that definitely, everybody was sliding coming down to pit road. Look at that Christian Peterson here all by himself. I guess he did kind of pit by himself. Must have done a great job. Was able to get in front of Darlene, Weeks, Owens here, and Pienta, but they kind of all just drive by him just because they're together. So we'll see where they blend as Jackson Sims, William Barbagelata, they're leaving pit road. They're down here in turn 1. You can see him straight ahead for Darling as he's got the momentum here.
We had about 19 drivers in the lead pack prior to the pit stops. 17 of them were on the lead lap. We'll have to wait and see just how many are in the lead pack after these pit stops cycle through and everybody's able to get themselves up to speed. There you see Jackson Sims, the pole sitter, going to get his doors blown off there by these 4 or 5 drivers that are already up to full speed. Jared Darling should move to the point after all the completion of the pit stops has concluded. And I kind of go back and look at some of those drivers that locked up coming to pit road here. You mentioned that we're probably going to have to come to pit road at least one more time before the end of this race. And something I noticed, a majority of the drivers that pit went with fuel only. With the lockups and the half spins we saw there at the entrance of pit road, is your hand forced where you absolutely then have to take on tires, or can you get away with those worn out Goodyears of still just going with the fuel only strategy?
You know, I like the idea of at least going maybe left side tires this time, right side tires the next time. It's a little scary to be on the same set of tires for 75 laps. I know you probably can do it, but I like the idea of having the maneuverability in your truck and just, you know, being on the safe side. Weeks jumps to the outside here, has help from Christian Peterson, going to try to take this lead back for the first time in this run. But yeah, I don't know. And now Peterson's going to jump to the inside. Nice move there to try to grab this lead.
So the front pack has gotten smaller. That second pack have added in a couple more drivers to their ranks. Saw Shane Neiswanger have that issue with Justin Mons, the entrance of pit road. He's now about to get swallowed up by that group along with Josh Robin. They're only running about maybe a second ahead of that second group, currently being led by Hunter Madalinas. Also, you've got back in that pack, I believe, oh no, actually he's lost touch even with the second pack, Nicholas Caressel, after that lengthy stay on pit road. Right now, he would be in the free pass position as he, Woodall, and Mons are the only 3 drivers currently off the lead lap.
Hey, you almost wonder if this second pack could potentially pick up more stragglers and be able to get more trucks in it and maybe even run down that first pack at some point. You know, just got to get organized here. Obviously, they caught up to Neiswanger and Robin there, and it just kind of broke them up a little bit. But ultimately, if they can get lined up and rolling here, maybe they have a chance to get back in this at some point. You never know. If you go this whole race green and you keep working at it, 15 seconds, you know, that there's an option there, especially if this lead pack is getting to racing a little bit more and slicing, you know, breaking up their draft.
Christian Peterson has now made his way to the point, although now looking to his inside is Jared Darling. You know, you got a pretty good battle going on here down the close of the season as well, with Peterson, Matthew Weeks, Hunter Madalinas all trying to see who can break the 3-way tie of 3 wins each. Currently tied for second most. Daniel Nanny with 4 victories on the season has the most checkered flags here in season 11. And obviously for Christian Peterson, missing the last couple of weeks, trying to get himself back into the conversation, but he is in no man's land. This is what we call the sucker hole at Superspeedways. When you're in the middle and you've got that air moving on both sides of your truck, it pulls you back. It allows those other lanes to your inside and outside to pull ahead. That is not a fun feeling.
Yeah, lucky to have Cressel in that 40 truck to basically kind of save him from going all the way to the back and get back in line here. But yeah, that's not fun because there's nowhere to go either. It's like you almost have to wait it out and wait until you get somewhere near the back. As Lawson's going to grab the lead for the first time tonight. Gets clear here. Yeah, Darling got in the apron a little bit.
That tri-oval, one of the toughest areas of the racetrack for a driver. You're not really able to lean into the banking like they have here in the corners of 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and you're not really going straight like they are here on the back straightaway. You're kind of turning to the left at the same time, and the back end of the truck gets loose. You see Jared Darling not exactly all that thrilled with the positioning he was in there as he had that moment through the tri-oval, so he's going to tuck in line at the tail end of the inside line of this pack and just kind of ride for a little bit.
Yeah, you know, the one thing that I think, you know, isn't a bad idea, you know, we saw a handful of these drivers that were able to save fuel and then go a little bit farther on that first run. The other side to saving fuel, this series does not take, you're not allowed to fill the truck all the way full. It's a smaller, reduced fuel cell. If you can save fuel for a couple runs, you know, maybe that second to last run, you don't need as much fuel, especially we're talking fuel only. You can maybe gain a couple seconds on pit road and jump the entire pack, and next thing you know, you're out front, especially if you got teammates that are working. So we saw Darling up there leading some laps early, maybe jump into the back to to save a little bit, just kind of get back on schedule. That might be part of the strategy here.
We're about 5 laps away from halfway. So far, we have run green flag since the start of this race, but we mentioned about this racetrack being a wild card race in consideration of the playoffs. Matthew Weeks, he's been out in front for a majority of this race, already racked up some valuable bonus points in that regard. He's run up inside of the top 10. On the flip side of that situation, Hunter Madalinas, currently in the 14th position, but 16 and a half seconds behind the lead pack. If you look at our live points coming into tonight, it was 9-point separation between these two coming into this evening. That gap has increased. As a matter of fact, Madalinas isn't even sitting in the runner-up spot now. Pole sitter Jackson Sims has leapfrogged him, now 14 points back.
Just looking at that second pack, they've at least got a little bit more organized now. Lost a little bit of ground just trying to get organized at some point. Now they're kind of racing, and sometimes it feels like, especially double file, that almost works. You can kind of draft off each other and pull your pack together. Obviously, if this was a pack of, that was, a pack of leaders trying to chase down lappers, and those other guys were lappers, they'd catch up even if they were racing side by side if they have the numbers going. So the previous lap, they were about a half a second, maybe even a little bit more faster than some of the others. The other pack, so we'll have to see. I'm just going to watch as they go by this time, if they gained any ground. About another 0.8 of a second. So as of right now, they're organized pretty well, and maybe have a chance to get caught up at some point if they keep it up.
Now the thing is, do they have to get themselves caught up before we get to that window when everybody has to come to pit road again? Or is there a scenario where after a final cycle of pit stops, they would have enough time to be able to close up the remainder of the gap?
Well, I think, the last run, obviously, they're still 14 seconds back. Even if they gain a second a lap, it's going to be tough to get there before the final pit stop here. But even if you get most of it done and you're not far back, if that's lead pack, we saw all the issues of people pitting on the first green flag pit stop. If we have more people having issues, you could potentially see, that pack just fall apart. Next thing you know, there's only a couple trucks, and then this lead pack, the second pack, if they are well organized on pit road, they could potentially be the faster pack and chase them down pretty easily then. So, yeah, you got to stay in it and hope. Obviously, a caution changes everything. I see Barbagelata and Henry up there. They're all racing. Who knows? You might get a caution before the end of this anyways.
I was going to say, all this scenario making might be a moot point with what we've seen these last couple of laps. Christian Peterson and William Barbagelata, they almost got together last time through the tri-oval. They were almost 4 wide for a moment. As we start to approach the halfway threshold, we're starting to see the aggression level pick up here. Drivers are getting a little bit more confident, a little bit more aggressive in their moves of trying to get up to the front and stay at the front. 3 wide again as Peterson puts Barbagelata in the middle. Lawson just hugging that double yellow line with Zachary Henry as a drafting partner there on the shorter way around the racetrack. Seeing a lot more movement out of these trucks as well. A lot of weaving going on here in the middle of the pack.
And ultimately, we talked about it. A lot of these drivers didn't take tires. That might affect the handling a little bit. But I think also just some bigger pushes and some it's just a little the longer you go, the more apt to harder these trucks can handle. Even mentally, you've been racing in the pack for a while. You might, be a little less on the steering wheel and see your truck sliding back and forth. We ride with Matthew Durr here. It's a little bit crazy to look ahead and nowhere to go. Just watching these tandems in front of them drafting for the lead.
We saw Matthew Durr kind of pull off a buzzer beater at Homestead Miami Speedway to get that final spot in the playoffs, and he has made the most of it. Very consistent in these first 3 races of the playoffs. He currently sits, he came into tonight 6th in the point standings. We showed you on the live standings earlier. He's actually leapfrogged Shane Neiswanger, so he's currently in the top 5 in the overall standings as they currently run, and doing a great job here again at the high banks of Talladega, holding down a solid spot inside of the top 10. It's interesting too, as we look at all the drivers up here in this lead pack, there are a lot of drivers that are candidates to get their first career wins here at Talladega Superspeedway in the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series. We mentioned about Elliott Henderson, a former two-time winner here. The only other 3 drivers in the field that took the green flag tonight that have formally won at this racetrack: William Barber-Gelada, Jared Darling, and James Shiflett. So there are a lot of drivers here tonight that may pick up their first career checkered flag here in Talladega, Alabama.
It's a cool place to win. I won as the first win at in this league for me late in the season to give me a chance to compete for the championship. Was not able to get the championship done, but it was just a perfect timed win. Avoided the last lap crash, and it's always exciting because when you win here, a lot of times it's you're kind of almost surprised by it. You don't expect. It's not like you've been leading by yourself for maybe 30 laps like some of the other tracks, but Darling just pushed Kressel all the way to the lead there with the tandem, but he just didn't get clear. Kressel's going to jump back up and try to help him out, but yeah, nice job to use that tandem to get up there and try to lead this pack. I noticed they're all getting single file. I'll tell you what, that second pack is doing a great job. I think if they keep it up at the rate they're going the last 5 or 6 laps, the next 5 to 6 laps, they're going to be close enough to start gaining draft on this pack. They're doing a great job now, 9 seconds back. They were as far as, 15, 16 seconds earlier, so doing a great job.
Yeah, right now showing the lead pack of that second group, that being Hunter Madalinas, currently 8.3 seconds off the back bumper of Matthew Weeks, who is the caboose on this lead pack train. What would be the target interval right now of front bumper of the lead truck in the second pack to the back bumper of the trailing truck in the lead pack to be in what we call the slipstream or the draft, to be able to tow you and your pack up into the lead group?
I think usually it's about 1.5 seconds maybe is when you can start really feeling it, I think. So I think, at this rate, just using my basic math, I'm thinking they're about 1 second a lap right now. There's 8 seconds or so away. That's, lap 49. That's about where our fuel window is. So it'd be very interesting to see if they get there before the fuel window, or if it's, just close enough to kind of give this second pack and all the drivers in it a little bit of life before that green flag pit stop, to know like they're there if we just execute on this pit road. The only thing is obviously this second group, maybe they're not saving much fuel, so they maybe have to take an extra second of fuel. That might be part of this. But it's so much easier in the second group to be organized with a common goal to try to get back to that first group. While the first group, they all have the same goal. It's to lead, and that just is a really easy way to break you up all the time. So a great job by Madalinas and Henderson by leading that pack and getting them organized to get back in this.
Obviously, in this portion of the season, we put a lot of emphasis, a lot of camera time on the playoff drivers as they're racing for the big championship, but cannot forget that there are a lot of drivers as well that take the green flag every Tuesday night, and they want to have their truck be the first one across the start-finish line when the checkered flag waves. Hunter Brittle right now getting shuffled out to that middle line. His playoff driver is going to freight train him on the inside, but he's had a solid evening here, currently up inside of the top 5. We've documented Nicholas Caressel currently having a great run, William Barber-Gelada, Zachary Henry. There's a lot of drivers here tonight that are not sporting those playoff blue banners above the windshield, that they want to win this race just as much as the playoff contenders do.
For sure. An opportunity, this is obviously so many more drivers have the opportunity to potentially win this race. It gives them a chance here and in a spot that it's really just excitement to just go grab a win. How cool would it be to get a win and kind of upset the playoff drivers as they battle for it. I just saw Darling basically went from leading this pack all the way to the back of the pack, just kind of maybe just going back to save a little fuel, or I don't know, get organized. I'm not sure, but Lawson and Brittle now has been doing a great job trying to grab this lead here. Caressel has been one of the guys that's been very aggressive in pushing and trying to push another truck up there every time, but this organization on the bottom lane here has maybe made it a little tougher for this top lane to do anything, especially with just the 2 trucks.
And an error on my part, I had forgotten that Caressel actually had that 30-second penalty on pit road. He's actually battling to be the first car one lap down right now, but that kind of makes it interesting where he's kind of the proverbial X factor right now for these leaders. To see him push Hunter Brittle to the race lead. Right now, Caressel, the driver he has to worry about is Robin Durr, who's at the tail end of this lead pack. Those both are the first two drivers one lap down. Caressel, obviously, much like those drivers in that second pack, would love to see a caution to be able to get the free pass, get back in the lead lap, because obviously we see he has top 5, maybe even race-winning speed. He just needs to get that one lap back.
Yeah, just pushing, picking a driver, pushing him up near the front just to try to stay, that first car one lap down, trying to stay ahead of Robin Durr, but we'll see if... right now, kind of by himself in a bad spot. We'll see if he gets an opening here. Yeah, he did have that penalty. Ultimately, kind of just needs that caution to get back in this. This single file line is kind of leveled out a little bit the speed and pace that the second line was starting to pull into. So I think that maybe this potentially is giving them a chance to still stay a little separated from that second line. I think if they can get to the pit stop and not have that second line too close, then it gives a great opportunity for any group to potentially make a mistake and maybe have less drivers available. I think if you're any of these front runners, you're hoping less drivers are in this main pack, and you're one of the only ones left in it to battle in the final run.
With the single file train, how much communication do you think there actually was of maybe some of those trailing trucks saying, hey guys, we're losing ground to that second pack, let's single file ourselves out, keep them out of the conversation? Or do you think because we're drawing close to the eve of those pit stops that everybody's just trying to get themselves organized so we don't end up having a major stack up if they all dive to pit road on the same lap?
Might be a little bit of both, but I talked about it, it's hard to get organized as far as this lead group to say, like, hey, let's all work together for a common goal. Their common goal is a little different than the second group, So I think ultimately we're only a couple laps away from pit stops. I think obviously maybe there's a chance here of some saving. We see Zachary Henry's going to push Caressel all the way out to the front of this pack. That gives Henry the lead and Caressel back on the lead lap, albeit just by a bumper. A good spot to be if the caution does come out, but unfortunately, just gonna have to lead this pack and see what happens. Hope for who knows? You get this pit stop here, potentially chaos entering pit road. You could see a caution.
It's gonna be interesting to see who the benchmark driver is going to be, that first one to make the dive onto pit road. Now, Matthew Weeks was the first one to dive onto pit road during the first cycle of pit stops. However, he's currently been, for the most part, running back in the 5th, 6th position, so he's had an opportunity to save a little bit more fuel during the course of this run. Some of the drivers that were some of the last ones to come to pit road are actually running as your top 3, Zachary Henry, Hunter Brittle, and Ashton Lawson. Brittle has led a bit of this run here, Ashton Lawson as well, so they might be a little bit more depleted on what they've got in the tank. It'll be interesting to see what the span's going to be of drivers diving to pit road here. It was only about maybe 2 laps difference of most drivers coming to pit lane, those at the beginning of the cycle and those at the end of the cycle.
This second group did a great job kind of getting back going as far as momentum. They were able to gain about 0.7 of a second, maybe that last lap. We're going to see as they come across the line here if they were able to gain any bit more. It looks like not too much, pretty even now. So the worst part is they can see them really close now. They see them down the straightaway, 5 seconds back. It's gotta feel a little like so close yet so far. But who knows? We're gonna see pit stops here in the next few laps. I hear a couple drivers jumping on the radio, just calling out maybe when they're gonna pit here in the next few laps. We'll see if anyone comes down from this first group yet. I think they can go a little bit farther, and that just gives them an opportunity to make sure that they can go the rest of the way if it stays green.
But to your point, great organization with this second pack. They were 10 seconds back prior to the pit stops. It increased to 16 seconds, and it has now dropped down to less than 6 seconds separation. two things that they have to hope. Number one is that the drivers up in the lead pack, when they come to pit road, they get broken up. Number two, this pack back here, that they all get together as soon as possible when their pit stop cycle is completed to be able to gain them more time on track. We'll have to see. Obviously, execution on pit road is going to be huge, and we saw about 3 or 4 drivers lock up those rear tires on entry. Certainly cannot afford that to stifle the momentum of any pack that comes to pit road, whether you're in pack number 1 or pack number 2. Here comes Jared Darling to pit road to begin what looks like going to be the final cycle of pit stops here tonight at Dega.
And if this first pack, breaks itself up a couple times, there's 12 trucks here in this first pack during the second run. If they, 4 of them pit one lap, 4 pit another lap, and another 4 maybe have a mistake. Next thing you know, that second pack, if they're all organized, they can do a great job of getting caught back up. A handful of those drivers in that second pack also pitted here. We'll see if where they cycle out. It's going to be fascinating to see where you cycle out. Sometimes you can do this too well. If we saw it, Peterson did a great job on that first green flag pit stop, made the pit stop, and was way in front of everybody, but by himself. So we'll see if we'll see how everybody does. Here comes Caressel, still a lap down. Gonna have a few others following him down pit road. Look like Peterson.
Spencer Owens is in. Matthew Weeks, Jeremy Pienta as well. Here come a few trucks from that second group, being led by, I believe that's the 85 of Cy Jackson, Kyle Cooper. Elliot Henderson is in as well as Kurt Gibson. Didn't really see anybody here so far lock up those rear tires, so maybe a little bit of an unknown on the first cycle, and now they're learning what they needed to do, pumping those brakes a little bit better on the entry to the commitment line here second time round.
This pack still out on the track, I think, doing a great job here of going a little bit farther, and then just doing some drafting. Brittle was pushing Henry there down the backstretch. And now they're going to all pit. This is a big group here. See if they can all get... Oh, Lawson getting close to Henry.
Oh, there's contact, and they're 4 wide, and there goes Lawson into Henry, into his left rear quarter pail, then gets clipped in the right rear. He spins around. The 12 and the 26 both facing the wrong direction for a time on pit road, and that is not what the lead pack needed. Looks like somebody overshot their pit stall there as well. I believe that was Brent Kincott in the 5.
Yeah, and this is probably going to, this second pack here, this last group to pit here, it's going to put them kind of in a bad spot. I see the leaders are already coming off of turn 4. They're probably going to lose their opportunity maybe to win this race. But, yeah, just maybe a one too many trucks coming to pit road there. Just maybe the circumstances they were in. Again, Christian Peterson did a great job of being able to get down through pit road and get out here, out near the front all by himself. Or I guess he's got a little bit of help here. Owens, Pienta, and then Caressel still racing with these guys up here in the lead as they here comes the other trucks trying to blend.
Matthew Weeks just barely going to stay latched onto this draft here as Jackson Sims, Matthew Durr merged their way up onto the racetrack. Same for William Barbagellata, and right there will be the exchange for the lead as Peterson and his group of 4 will thunder around the outside of Hunter Brittle, and Peterson will now go out into clean air. And I think safe to assume now that they all reach the window where they can make it the rest of the way on fuel and regulation?
For sure. Yeah, I think the only thing would be a green-white checker. We look back here. There is a hornet's nest. I think this group is just a mix of all kinds of strategies as far as when they were pitting. The good news is they're all together. That's a big pack right here. If they get organized, they're only, about 5 seconds back. This is really just kind of a lot of those guys that were in that first group, maybe, made a mistake on pit road and fallen back to where that second group was. So who knows? This group here, I think they got a chance to get back in this, especially with only, about 8 trucks in that first group out front.
Yeah, before the first cycle green flag pit stops, we had 17 drivers on the lead lap in the lead pack. After the pit stop cycle was completed, we only had 12 drivers in the lead pack on the lead lap. Now, we're down to 8. Granted, there are a couple of lap trucks in this mix as well, including the 40 of Caressel and the 98 of Robin Durr, but the numbers advantage has certainly shifted over to that second pack, with the number of drivers having some mistakes on pit lane. The odds have now stacked in favor of that second group getting up here, and if they do so, we're going to go from 8 trucks in this lead group to as many as 20 trucks still in the conversation for this win. And there's still a long ways to go. There's 20 laps still to be run here at Talladega. Plenty of time for that second group to get back in the conversation.
Sure, and and then they're going to have the momentum when they get there, and they're going to want to use it. So we'll see what this lead pack. But shout out to both the leaders in this lead pack here with Spencer Owens. We talked about the Daytona winner. Doing a great job here tonight of just quietly being up near the front, or at least putting himself in position to now have the lead here with the pit stop done with 20 to go. And then Matthew Weeks, we saw him lead early, points leader, doing a great job of trying to control the race early. Had to fall back, maybe decided to save a little bit, or at least get away from the lead pack, but now back in this and up near the front. Impressive drive by both those trucks here to potentially contend for this win.
Yeah, Spencer Owens trying to go for the Superspeedway sweep after he led 11 laps in the season opener at Daytona, brought it home with the victory, qualified well in that race, started 5th and brought it home obviously in P1, and has been up here inside of the top 10, if not the top 5, the entirety of this race, now leading the lead pack here with less than 20 laps to go. Christian Peterson, his wingman there on the inside, as here comes the outside line thundering back alongside of him, led by Matthew Weeks. Now, something else that you talked about just about midway through that last run that we saw was drivers two-truck tandeming, and they were able to make up some pretty good speed against 4 or 5 trucks to their inside. Now, obviously, if you are the pusher, you're keeping an eye on your water temp because it's probably starting to spike with no air being delivered to the front end of your machine. But is that an option that we may see drivers and teammates lean upon as we get closer to the end of this race?
I kind of wonder if that was part of the reason why that was kind of working, was the fact that a lot of other drivers were maybe just kind of riding a little bit, just trying to get through the middle of those green flag runs. But you never know. I mean, obviously, if it's something that worked, you might try it again to try to gain some speed. I think that it obviously, when they were all kind of single file, it worked really well. But I don't know if it would work double file. I think we're going to see at some point, if this other pack gets there, a third lane form, and I think that's going to be your opportunity to gain on this pack, especially if you get 3 or 4 trucks up there. But I think you need more than 2, especially once we get down to the end when everybody is going for it, wide open, trying to win this race.
You look at a lot of those drivers in that second group that are going to potentially, as they continue to run better lap times in this lead group, get a second chance at life. We've already documented playoff drivers Hunter Madalinas and Elliott Henderson. They ended up having a checkup for an incident in the early going of this race, lost ground. They have been trying to gain that track position back ever since. But you've also got some other drivers here that have had some problems with green flag pit stops, whether it's locking up the brakes on entry or getting involved in somebody else's mess. The 49 of Shay Neiswanger is in this group. The 26 of Ashton Lawson. The 12 of Zachary Henry. These are drivers, Kirk Gibson, the 45, that had issues, but they may have a mulligan here with being in this second group to be able to get back up there, still remain in this conversation. You don't hear of that very often at a super speedway. You mess up once or twice during a green flag pit stop cycle, normally your day is done and you're praying for a caution to save you. That's not the case here for a number of these drivers.
Yeah, it's unfortunately, I look at even the 22 of Kurt Gibson, the 22nd Kurt Gibson, and the 45, the 73 of Kyle Cooper, both got kind of caught up in incidents, but now just lost the draft. Kind of just needing a caution to get that reset. I think if they do, it's just going to breathe new life to a bunch of different drivers here. That second pack is hitting some fast laps. They might be starting to close in on that draft a little bit. I think they're going to get there, especially they got a handful of laps to do it. Still coming to 15 to go. A couple lap trucks here. This is going to be fascinating to watch how this how this shakes out. I imagine they're going to be really excited when they get there, this pack, to see what they can do and try to battle with this lead group for the win.
Difference of speed in these respective packs is going to make a difference in the energy that both these packs will have when the second group eventually is able to reel in this first pack. And if you're Nicholas Caressel, how frustrating is this right now? As you know, you've got a truck capable of winning, but you're currently one lap down to the drivers around you, and every lap that's ticking away is one less lap that you're able to A, get a caution to get back in the lead lap, but B, be able to work your way back up to the front, because if a caution happens, granted you're back in the lead lap, but man, you got a lot of trucks you're going to have to pass to get back up to where you're currently at.
Yeah, I think this is a good spot to be. Obviously, there, we see Gibson going by there. That's another lap truck that he would have to beat for the free pass. Just staying ahead of this pack here, especially as this second pack is going to catch him here in this next lap. That energy behind, who knows what's going to happen with that second pack catching up here. It could potentially. Elliott Henderson just ran the fastest lap of the race, so he's got the draft, and they're coming quick. So I think if you're Kressel, you're in the great spot here. See how this plays out. But I don't know. At some point, some of these lead lappers might get mad about him being up there.
Running for the third straight week, that Jamie McMurray Busch Series throwback. McMurray was never afraid to jump up to that third line. Let's see what Henderson does now, as here we go. What was a minuscule pack after the second cycle of pit stops has now become a thundering herd. We've got ourselves about 20 trucks in this lead group. Here comes Henderson. Nice-swanger. Peterson will move up to block that momentum, try and get a little for himself, as we are 3 wide, 4 make it 5 rows deep.
Yeah, nice job by Peterson to grab that spot. Now Caressel's going to go up there and lead that first pack. I think, if I was Caressel, I would have maybe stayed, in the middle lane there. But ultimately, that's where the momentum was. Spencer Owens going to jump to the outside now of Weeks, use that middle lane. Man, this is where Caressel's proven me wrong. He's going to get the run here and be leading this pack, even though he's a lap down.
You'd think he was the leader right now as he moves from top to bottom to block all 3 lanes. Ooh, energy up in that middle groove, got to his right rear, and now he's going to get loose and have to go down onto the apron. We're 4 wide through the tri-oval. Can he find a way back up? Might be able to tuck in line behind Jeremy Pienta, but that move right there lost him a ton of momentum, and I believe he is now faded out of the lucky dog position. The 98 has gotten by him.
Yeah, tough spot there, but ultimately, I just wonder if at some point he was going to have to move back too, just to be a nice enough guy to get out of the lead pack, let these leaders race. And ultimately, you can't get the free pass if you're in the incident. So if this crash happens, maybe you'd want to be the first driver a lap down that's not in the crash, and hope that also means you're the first driver to get the free pass. Man, this is amazing. 3x3. Nice job by Owens to jump up to that middle to basically not let himself get locked behind Weeks there. You look at Barber Gelati here, he's kind of stuck now, waiting to see if that bottom lane ever clears to give him an opportunity, but a nice move by Owens to just give himself that out and have a chance here to battle for this lead.
We talk about super speedway racing. A lot of times you can be involved in an incident when you're nowhere near where the wreck is triggered. This could be a case in point right here. Look at all of the playoff drivers we've got up in this lead pack. Pretty much gridlocked, 3 abreast, 6-7 rows deep. One errant move could have catastrophic results and could have huge ramifications for the playoffs heading into next week, as Matthew Weeks has been able to clear Spencer Owens. Owens now going to move to the right rear, and Barber Gelati is going to go up to a third lane. Nobody wants to ride here at the front of the field.
Yeah, Barber Gelati finally got that chance to get out where I said he was kind of stuck. Oh, it's going to turn. This is going to be a big one.
And it's going to involve Christian Peterson, Shane Nicewonger as well. At least 3 playoff drivers collected up in this one. Another driver further up may have gotten a small piece of it, but there you go with 10 laps remaining. Took a long time, but the caution has finally waved here tonight at Talladega, and 3 playoff contenders are going to be leaving the exit of turn number 1 with some pretty significant damage.
Yeah, I think that was just a matter of, the momentum changing because of the battling up near the front a little bit. And then, unfortunately, just maybe a bad lineup as far as, being offset a little bit. It's like Durr maybe just came up a little bit while Barbagelotto was just trying to keep his fender there just to get as much draft as he could.
It was hard to tell. Did he maybe get a bump in the right rear from Jackson Sims behind him?
Yeah, that could be too.
There's just so much movement going on. There's a lot of checkup that takes place with how close everybody is. A lot of air moving. This is on board with Sims looking ahead to the 18 of Matthew Durr. Now it just looks like, to your point, Durr may have... The question is, did he think he was clear of the third line, or was he looking more out the windshield, just following the line of Hunter Brittle, not realizing there was somebody to his outside there?
Yeah, it's a tough spot. We'll see where Gelada...
Yeah, because you see Brittle move up a little bit to the right, and it's like Matthew Durr in reaction moves up to follow the 10 with Barbagelotto already to his right rear.
You talked about that, that bottom line through the tri-oval is such a weird, it's almost got a different banking than the rest of the tri-oval. And then when you leave it, it kind of, gets narrower. I just wonder if, like, racing in the pack, everybody's so close, the lines kind of just are sliding over a little bit to be on where they're supposed to be right there where that transition is, that maybe that just kind of added to it, and just you feel like, okay, I'm in line, but then I'm not, just because the whole pack is kind of sliding over for the entry to 1. But yeah, it's a tough spot, and ultimately, a big wreck. But I'm shocked it didn't claim a lot more drivers. I think a lot of these drivers, we'll see how many have significant damage. Even just the 18 going for this wild ride here.
Both left side tires coming up off the racing surface. Saw Elliot Henderson there dip down towards the inside of the racetrack. A little contact there for the right front of Hunter Madalinas. So we'll have to follow up and see if those drivers sustained any damage that will keep them out of the hunt for this victory. They had worked so hard almost the entirety of this race to get back up into that lead pack. We're kind of spearheading that second group for most of this race, and some interesting gamesmanship was going on with those lap trucks as well. You mentioned you can't be involved in the incident to be eligible. We ended up seeing Kurt Gibson, Robin Durr, Nicholas Caressa. They all kind of threw out the parachute, faded to the back. One driver that didn't do that was Kyle Cooper. He stayed up there in that lead group, was able to get by the incident. First truck 1 lap down at the time the caution flew. He gets the free pass, and he'll be back on the lead lap.
Yeah, various strategies there. You don't know. It's easy to say now, like, of course, you should have stayed up near the front, but I like the idea of dropping to the back. We knew an incident was gonna happen at some point there. It just looked like that was likely. And you can't have you can't be in an incident in order to get that free pass. So just to get away and give yourself a chance isn't a bad gamble, but unfortunately it just didn't work out for those guys. And and Cooper's going to have the opportunity, ultimately just not getting any damage in that incident either, just being up near the front, kind of on that bottom lane, gives him a chance to maybe steal a good finish here in the closing laps. Still about going to restart maybe with about 6 to go.
We can add another potential driver involved of our playoff contenders. Ashton Lawson came to pit road and had a rather lengthy stop in his pit stall. Also, Zachary Henry in the 12 was on pit road for what appeared to be damage repairs. So yeah, it's tough in those type of incidents there to be able to know just exactly who got bits and pieces of the incident. You don't really know the full story until you see drivers come to pit road for repairs. So it looks like about 5-6 drivers sustaining damage from this incident. Looks like at this point in time, all have returned to the track with the exception of Shane Nicewonger. Even the 18 of Matthew Durr, who we saw catch some pretty significant air just past the start-finish line, has returned to the track, and it looks like everybody involved that was on the lead lap, they're going to stay on the lead lap. The question is going to be, how up to speed are they going to be? How competitive are they going to remain here with a handful of laps left to be run?
Well, I think your goal is to potentially just stay alive, and who knows, you might all of a sudden get a big crash that gives you a chance to steal a good finish, or ultimately you never know. Some of these, if we get another big incident and then all of a sudden you're up near the front on another restart for a green white checker, you never know then if all of a sudden the pack breaks apart, you could still steal this race. Who knows? But yeah, I've seen damaged trucks win these races before. You never know what can happen. You got to stay in it and keep it on the lead lap and keep going forward. You never know what could happen here. I think I talked about it that last run, a great job by Owens and Weeks to get up there and grab the lead and put themselves in position. But man, this just proves my point. They were able to stay up there, and then when the caution did happen, they were able to be away from the incident, leading this pack, and now both have a chance to lead the two lines here on this restart with just a handful of laps to go.
You mentioned that word overtime. Now, we're going to have 6 laps to go in regulation here. We did have one overtime green-white checker in our season opener at Daytona. You said these guys had enough fuel after the pit stop to be able to make it to the completion in regulation. How far can we go into overtime with what we've got in the tank, especially with these pacing laps?
I feel pretty good just because of this caution here. This is an opportunity to save a little bit more here too. I think if you got a second one, maybe you'd be a little bit nervous. But it always happens. I think the likelihood of more than one seems to be pretty slim just because the energy of the pack takes more than a lap. But we'll see. We'll see if we can get through this the regulation, and who knows, maybe avoid that green-white checker and just race it out here these final 6 laps.
Spencer Owens and Matthew Weeks going to bring us back through the restart zone. Owens won at Daytona, open up the season. Weeks finished top 5. They've been up at the front most of this race. Let's see who's going to lead us in the closing stages of this one, as they'll remain double file for most of the field. A little bit of venturing to that third line back there. Looks like some of the lap trucks going up there. And here comes 2-time Talladega winner Elliott Henderson. He's going to move up to that third line. Jared Darling's going to jump up there with him. Looks like also Gavin Fitzgerald going to move up to that third line. All of a sudden, everybody getting antsy at the front of the field.
Nice job by Jeremy Pienta to jump up there, and it ultimately kind of killed the momentum of that top lane, giving this bottom lane an opportunity to get away a little bit here. But yeah, this is going to put, looks like Jackson Sims going to jump to the outside. Got a huge push from Cy Jackson here to take the lead.
Sims has been super consistent. His last 7 starts, he has finished no worse than 6th place. He's looking to get his first win on the season, looking to go coast to coast here at Talladega. He led us to the green. He'd love to lead us to the checkers.
Yeah, this the breakup of that bottom lane kind of gave Weeks second life. I thought he was going to be in trouble, kind of stuck in the middle, but now it kind of re-gave that middle lane an opportunity here, and he still leads. Man, this is going to be tough. I think it's gonna change probably 10 more times in these final 5 laps. It's a great spot to be if you're Jackson Sims, though. Out front, nice move to grab the lead here.
Where did that Robin's Egg blue number 85 of Cy Jackson come from? He, much like Madalinas and Henderson. Oh, we got a truck that blew up! That's William Barbagelata blowing up in the middle of the pack. Drivers scattered to avoid. We've got several sliding across the start-finish line. Madalinas in the 7. I saw Ashton Lawson as well. Caution's going to wave for the second time here tonight. Looked like the engine let go on the number 27 of William Barbagelata, who was up there inside of the top 10, knocking on the door of the top 5. Everyone saw the smoke, tried to scatter, contact was made.
We'll have to see what happened just from the engine letting go on the 27. Just, there's no place to go for a lot of these trucks when that happens, and it's just a bad spot.
We see just how locked he is to the back bumper of Weeks. Could this have been maybe being locked bumpers too long and the water temp spiking? He lets off of that bumper too late. The damage has already been done.
Yeah, it looks like he really did a great job of getting out of the way. Maybe Madalenas had Pienta there behind him and just maybe a stack up farther back as they all saw what was happening in front of them.
They were 3 wide, almost 4 wide there behind William Barbagelata. And to your point, some drivers have different methods when they end up seeing smoke, whether it's a mechanical failure or a wreck up ahead. Some of them will feather the throttle, others will try and look for the hole and stay in the throttle. And yeah, you can see the stack up right there. Madalenas getting turned by Jeremy Pienta, clips the 27 of Ashton Lawson. Lewis Woodall has to get hard on the brakes as well in the 13. Woo! Has to narrowly avoid Lawson coming back down the apron there in the entrance of turn 1. In fact, there was also some stack up behind them as well, behind that Madalenas and Pienta incident. Brent Kincott was into the back of Jared Darling, but they both managed to keep their trucks pointing in the right direction. And that's such a helpless feeling right there, right? You're like, I've got it missed, and all of a sudden you're around getting clipped in the right rear quarter panel.
Yeah, tough spot to be in. And ultimately, the drivers that are in the second half of this pack, they're just kind of waiting to see if there's something that happens to break it up, to give them a chance. If it's an incident that they can get through, there's just no place to go. We saw Pienta up near the front there, and then all of a sudden get cycled to the back. He's going to be try to be aggressive to get back up there. Just a tough spot to be in if you're one of these drivers that were up here leading. You had a chance, and then all of a sudden you lose some of that track position because of the way the draft moved around, the packs moved around. But here we go. We're going to have an overtime. And Jackson Sims, I was just looking at it, 103 starts in this league. Been around for many seasons. Still looking for that first win. We've talked about he's a guy that has been just very consistent, especially during these playoffs. Just 13 points back of Matthew Weeks. What this win could do, get him the first win in this league he's been wanting to get for so long, and potentially give him a chance to maybe race for this championship against these front runners. I think this would be a huge moment in the season if he would be able to pull it off. But this overtime is gonna be crazy. It's gonna be wild.
We're in the latter stages of the month of September. You go back to July 29th of this year is when he began his incredible streak of finishes. Sixth, a runner-up finish at Phoenix on fuel strategy. Closed out the regular season with a third-place performance, and in the first 3 playoff races, a 5th at Homestead, and back-to-back third-place performances at Darlington and Rockingham. They brought that same speed over here to Talladega. He started from the pole position. He hasn't led a ton of laps here, but he's been up in the conversation and been in the right place at the right time. Could the right place be being the control truck here on maybe the only overtime green-white checkered? I say only, or the potential only, because granted, we had only one overtime green-white checkered at Daytona. We could see multiple here tonight at Talladega.
Yeah, the only thing that potentially lends itself to not having more than one is the idea of just like that first lap sometimes takes a little bit to get everybody organized and in a spot where they can be aggressive enough to cause a caution. And then it usually happens on the final lap where you don't get a caution and they have to race back to the line. So I like to think that they won't. If all of a sudden you have a stack up maybe on the restart, that would potentially cause a quick caution and throw in another overtime. But then we can start wondering about the fuel situation. I think ultimately these caution laps have given them the chance to save a little bit here and make sure they can go. But just something to have in the back of our minds just in case. You never know. Also, some of these drivers we talked about is green flag pit stops. They were maybe trying to just do just enough fuel to make it. And if they thought, well, I might be able to save on the final run and make it if I take a little less, and then didn't get the opportunity to save, they might be kind of in trouble. So even if they were in the window, doesn't mean they put enough fuel in it.
So many times in Superspeedway racing, the phrase is uttered, where did he come from? I've already given Cy Jackson his flowers as he's going to be on the inside of this front row. Couple more shout-outs that have to be given. Former Talladega winner James Shiflett. He's going to restart this race from the outside of row number 3 in the 6th position. And Michael Sensi, we haven't mentioned his name all night long. Why? He spent a good portion of this race back in that second pack as well. He's going to restart in the 8th position. All of a sudden, the landscape, the names, the list of drivers that could go to victory lane has doubled, if not tripled. A lot of underdog stories of drivers that weren't even in the conversation for the first half of this race now have a chance here as we head into overtime.
A lot of drivers that are hungry for a win too, and who knows what they would do to grab the win here. I think, you have to be thinking throughout this race that you're racing against drivers that are, battling in the playoffs, but I imagine on the final lap, it's really easy to forget who is, even if you have that blue spoiler, I imagine if you're a non-playoff driver, you're here to win, and you kind of forget that some of these other drivers have different agendas. But, man, I'm excited to see how this one plays out, and we'll see if we can do it on just one overtime.
Yeah, we talk about the word momentum all the time. When it comes to super speed racing, you cannot in the closing stages race nice because you got to keep that energy, got to keep that momentum working positively for you. Here we go. We're going into overtime. Next flag is going to determine whether we go into another overtime green-white checkered or not. If they get back to the white, next flag ends the race. If the caution comes out before they make it back around, we rack them up and we do it again. Great launch for Jackson Sims, who immediately goes down to cover the inside line through 1 and 2.
And Cy Jackson was the one that pushed Jackson Sims to the lead on that last run. They're going to work together here. The Jackson and Jackson show, I guess we could call it. It's worked for them to grab the lead. Weeks is going to jump to the outside and try to break it up.
That was a tight squeeze for Josh Robin, but he made it work right behind Weeks, right in front of Spencer Owens. Weeks with that momentum is going to almost clear going into turn 3. Here comes the inside line back alongside. We're going to be gridlocked off of turn 4. Sims on the bottom, Weeks on the top.
I wonder if anyone can get a third line going, but if they don't, it's going to be a battle between Sims here and Weeks. Both drivers trying to get max points tonight to give themselves an opportunity. White flag, meaning there's not going to be another caution. If there is, they're just going to race back to the line. Sims getting the pole and able to pull away here, trying to get maybe get Cy Jackson clear.
How committed to the bottom is Jackson Sims going to be if he's got an opportunity to block that outside line? Does he go up there, or does he stay committed to that double yellow line? Here comes the third lane. That's Spencer Owens, our Daytona winner. He's got Hunter Brittle. Do they have enough time to make something happen? High, wide, and handsome trouble in the back. James Shiflett nearly loses it, hangs onto it, and look at the energy dissipate at the lead. Sims is in trouble. He's up the track. Up and over goes Josh Robin. We're 4 wide through the tri-oval. Peterson to the lead.
I think Christian Peterson's going to get it. Can Henry get to this inside, outside?
Oh, we tried, but he's going to get loose, and it's Christian Peterson who's going to break the 3-way tie for second most wins on the season. A triumphant return here in the playoffs, picks up his 4th win on the season, goes back to victory lane here in season 11. He restarted outside of the top 10. He was one of those drivers collected up in that wreck up in turn 1 that sent us into that less than 10 to go restart.
Wow, dude, you said it. Where did they come from? That's definitely the case for Peterson. I thought that, ultimately that lead pack kind of just, lost all their momentum when they kind of got separated. I think Cy Jackson, I kind of was thinking he may maybe makes a move here, tries to win this race, and just because the energy of the pack kind of dissipated, he had no momentum, and then it just kind of slowed everybody down. Weeks jumped to the outside. They were 4 wide, and then it just kind of opened up. Great push by Zachary Henry to push Peterson all the way up there to get him the lead and ultimately hold on in the end. We're going to have to break down this replay. This is wild finish.
Christian Peterson, we saw him be maybe one of the best in execution during the cycle of green flag pit stops, was able to cycle up to the front at the conclusion of those, didn't qualify all that well. He ended up starting this race outside of the top 15, but in Superspeedway racing, it's not about where you start, it's where you finish, and Christian Peterson, right place, right time, the right push and the right forward energy there off of 4 and through the trial to be able to have his nose get to the start finish line first. To your point, that movement there in that battle for the lead off of 4 completely changed the energy of several different lines.
And it just gave, we talked about it, the back half of the pack trying to build something and give them, a chance to get up there. I just think that ultimately it kind of, gave that second group, the back half of that group an opportunity when the whole pack got, sideways and all over the place. That's the moment that you want when you got, just one lap to go. And then also we saw that, you called it that incident that happened in 3 and 4 about mid-pack. I think maybe it was James Shiflett that was involved in that. A couple trucks just kind of got pulled away, and that just kind of cleared the track back there for him too, to give them an opportunity for, the C's to kind of part, to give Peterson and Henry a huge run to get through there, and then just pick the lane that was open through the trial to get up there and grab it. I thought Henry had a chance at the end, but not able to get there, and Peterson, is able to hold on and keep the lead and win.
67 1,000ths of a second was the interval here tonight. Not quite as close as it was at Daytona. That clocked in at 2,000ths of a second. But Christian Peterson picking up the victory, came into tonight 66 points out of the points lead. Certainly going to try and eat into that disadvantage here with still about 4 races remaining here in the postseason, and let's see if we can go down to victory lane and dial him up. Christian, it's the guys up here in the split-second broadcasting booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, guys.
Man, I'll tell you what a comeback for you here tonight. We saw you wrecked up into the outside wall in turn 1 with less than 10 laps to go, but looked like they did a pretty good repair job on this machine. You were able to fight your way back up, and you're the one standing in victory lane here tonight. Congratulations. How in the world were you able to do that? Because it looked like there was a lot of movement up in that lead group. How did you pick the right lane?
Yeah, everybody kind of just got out of the way. It seemed like, I don't know, they were all trying to block each other and block each other's runs, and I kind of just stayed at the bottom. And Henry there was pushing me good in the 12 truck. So, yeah, I don't know. The damage didn't really seem to affect me. It was like 45 seconds or something, but hell yeah, that was freaking awesome. I don't know. Yeah, they just kind of all parted ways, like I said. It feels good. Maji Motorsports going back to back.
Obviously, we ended up seeing kind of a tale of 2 races. We had the very lengthy green flag run, 2 green flag pit stop cycles. We documented that you seem to have one of the best executions on pit road, gained a ton of track position once everything cycled around. How much were you able to glean maybe from experimentation during that first half of the race that you then applied here when it was one massive pack on those last couple of restarts?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was really trying to do, was just learn stuff throughout the whole race. And my spotter, John Lide, was giving me good information. And it was just trying to work the lines and stay with which one was going to be fastest. But at the end there, it didn't really seem like there was going to be a fastest one. It was just going to, if you had somebody to push you or 2 or 3 trucks, get lined up, it could work. And then really just everything broke loose. I haven't even watched it yet, but people were blocking in 3 and 4. It was crazy. It was a lot of fun, though. It was a lot of fun coming to the line.
Your 4th victory on the season. You've had an incredible season 11 here in the Great Lakes Truck Series. Obviously, we didn't see you for a couple of weeks. You came into tonight about 66 points below the cut line, though granted, you do have still quite a number of races to work with. Is this a step towards trying to spearhead a comeback, get back into that championship conversation by the time we get to the season finale?
Maybe, I don't know. Everybody runs so good that runs up front most weeks, so it was like Talladega was going to be that. And then last week I was hoping there was one drop week in this playoffs, but I knew I was going to miss last week, and then I had a bad week at Darlington, so yeah, I don't know. We'll just see what we can do. The 10 bonus points probably help a little bit, but yeah, just try to have good finishes, have good fun races. You know what I mean?
Well, congratulations on getting the job done here tonight. We always say it in super speed races. Sometimes you got to be in the right place at the right time. You certainly were able to do that. We'll let you get back to your celebrating here tonight in just a moment. But first, we're going to give you the opportunity for some Victory Lane thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Yeah, definitely got to thank my spotter there, Lide. He did a hell of a job. It was fun. We had a blast. So having a spotter and just, I don't know, it just makes it fun, and you just kind of bullshitting all race and having a good time. So that's a lot of fun. Sucks the Manji Motorsports guys couldn't be here tonight, but I know they were watching, and we got it done for those guys. So shout out to them. But yeah, so just you guys too for putting on the show, and everybody else who shows up.
That's Christian Peterson, his 4th victory on the season as he burns it down here tonight in the Alabama Gang 200 at Talladega Superspeedway. Congratulations on a job well done, sticking with it here this evening. Fast truck, and best of luck here the remainder of the season.
Thank you.
Christian Peterson now ties Daniel Nanny with most wins on the season at 4. And what an interesting last, well, even 10 to 15 laps if we count those 3 or 4 laps of overtime there for Christian Peterson, from wrecked to redeemed. And you mentioned it, Ross, when we saw a number of those drivers involved still get back there on the racetrack, still on the lead lap, at least try and stay in the conversation. It's exactly what Christian Peterson did, and it paid off.
Just looking here, he pitted on lap 67 of a 75-lap race. Of course, we had the overtime, so that added a couple laps to get us to 77, but really when he pitted, he's thinking there's only about 7 to go, 6 to go on that last restart, got a little extra laps with really 10 laps, with a handful of, most of those being under yellow, to get back up there, and was able to drive up there and get it. The same thing with Zachary Henry, kind of the same strategy, same spot, and ultimately, we talked about it, maybe not guys that would work together a lot throughout the season, but just in the position to work together to get up there and battle for it. And I think if Zach Henry had just a little bit more time, he'd maybe have a chance to, there's no way he was going to follow Peterson the whole way. I think he probably wishes that start-finish line was down in 1 and 2 to have a shot to maybe steal it. But ultimately, just to break down the what happened to our front runners that were battling there, Jackson Sims and Cy Jackson really, they both finished in the top 5. Were able to, even though the momentum lost, they were able to still salvage a finish. And then Elliot Henderson kind of just surprised us in a 3rd. I just looked up and I'm like, wow, he was in 3rd. So Matthew Weeks, still points leader, finished 6th. I think he probably would take that after the chaos of those last few laps.
Yeah, you look at the remainder of the top 10 there. Gavin Fitzgerald. We didn't really talk a whole lot about him today. He was another driver that was mired in that second group. Kyle Cooper, 2 cautions ago, got the free pass, brings it home inside of the top 10 in 8th. Hunter Brittle in 9th, and Hunter Madalinas will finish in the 10th position. Our Daytona winner, Spencer Owens, we saw him kind of get shuffled out late in 11th. Shane Neiswanger, good comeback run for him there in 12th. But you heard Christian Peterson mention it at most of the racetracks, and even here tonight, a lot of the playoff contenders all found themselves up in the same vicinity. It makes things very difficult to be able to gain positions in the standings. Coming into tonight, our top 5 in points had not changed going into last week's race at Rockingham to leaving Rockingham. Here tonight, only one position actually changed up inside of the top 5. Jackson Sims moving up to 2nd, Hunter Madalinas moving down to 3rd, but both actually lost a bit of ground here to Matthew Weeks. So the consistency continues for Weeks, who tries to continue to maintain that advantage going into New Hampshire next week. So he didn't get the victory, he led a ton of laps. Is this basically all the check boxes marked off if you're driver 56?
I think so. I mean, he talked about it, last week when we chatted with him after the race at Rockingham, just the idea of you like to have a lead going into Talladega because you're probably going to lose some of it. And he was up 9 on Madalinas in 2nd. And now he's up 11 on Jackson Sims. So nice job to be able to actually gain a little bit of ground. And ultimately just keep the points lead. The other thing I note, you talked to Christian Peterson. He talked about how hard it is to climb. And I'm just looking, minus 66 last week. The win tonight, He's minus 58, so it didn't gain a ton. But I got to give him all the credit. He had a bad. Said a bad week at Darlington. Behind the scenes, had a tough week. I know that it was a penalty and everything. The taking the high road to be able to come here and grab the win and understand the situation he's in, and who knows, maybe you can get back in this with a run of wins and put some pressure on Weeks, Sims, and Madalinas all up front here, trying to and really Henderson right there, all four of them within 16 points.
Well, if you want to go to victory lane, you better not be afraid of lobsters, because next week we head to the northeast to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the Magic Mile. We finally kind of put the wild card racetrack in the rearview mirror. Now a quartet of driver racetracks to close out this season: New Hampshire, Chicagoland, Iowa, and Texas. But it all begins next week at New Hampshire. Is kind of a lot of your playoff drivers breathing a sigh of relief? We survived Talladega. Now we can kind of go back to work and in a way determine our own destiny.
Yeah, I think so. And I think ultimately, gives you a chance to maybe also, like, a lot of these drivers that have the chance to battle this out are, as the season winds down and you have a chance, you might spend more and more. You might find extra time in your week to run some laps and get better. Try to learn as much as you can before each race, to then try to be up front and score points. So I think that these next four races, New Hampshire and Iowa, there's a chance with a little bit smaller of a track of having a run of cautions. But if you can qualify up front, stay up front, and pick the right strategies, you can probably do a great job. And then Chicagoland and Texas are probably, a lot of these championship drivers are really excited about just the opportunity to get out in those tracks that have multiple lanes and really just race for it and try to put their best foot forward to try to win this championship.
Well, this championship is anything far from locked up. Still 4 races to go, and we will continue coverage of the 11th season of the Great Lakes Racing Truck Series next Tuesday night, as they'll be heading to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We congratulate Christian Peterson on his 4th win on the season, as he takes the Alabama Gang 200 here tonight at a classic Talladega race. Very unpredictable, wild finish here tonight. We thank you all for joining us in our coverage of this evening's event. Be sure to join us once again next Tuesday night here, as we'll bring you coverage of the continuation of the playoffs from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. For Ross Brockman, our producer, Jeff Johnson, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next week, as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of Split Second Broadcasting.